Hello everyone, today we are going to be making a game in Unity. So this is part 1. This will be a very simple game. Make sure that you have Unity before you start this tutorial. Go to sample scene, right click, 2D object, sprites, square. It's a white square. Change the scale to be 7, move it down a little bit. Maybe center it by making this position 0. Okay, that'll be the ground, so you can name that ground. Now, do that again, and this one will be our player. So 0, 0. Let's put this slightly above the ground. Now, we have the inspector, the hierarchy, and the scene. The scene shows us everything we have, like what will it look like. This shows us all of our game objects. Our game objects have a transform, which is where it is, a sprite renderer, which is what it looks like. It has that on the ground too. And you can add more components. So we're gonna add rigid body, 2D. This will add gravity and box collider, 2D. This will add collision. The ground, we just want box collider. Perfect. So we have the ground and the player. Okay. So now we need a player script. So just say player and new script. Player, create and add. Now just double click this to go into Visual Studio. If you don't have Visual Studio, you can also use any text editor. Alright, once you're in Visual Studio, get rid of the void start and say public integer speed and private public rigid body 2D RB. Now an update, now do float horizontal equals input dot get axis raw, and then in quotation marks use horizontal. Okay, that means if you're pressing A or D, it will tell you -1 or 1. Now, say RB dot velocity is equal to new vector 2, and we don't want to move the y-axis, we do want to move the x. So we'll say horizontal times speed. Also back here, make sure to say times time dot delta time, because that will make it so that it keeps track of time. And then do RB dot velocity dot y, so that never changes. Now save that by pressing Ctrl S, go back into Unity, and in player you'll see speed. Make sure that's like 10 and press play. Alright, change horizontal to this spelling because I spelled it wrong. Press play. And now if I just bump up the speed a little bit, it goes side to side. I'll just set this to 3000 and perfect. Now we have a moving player. If we add a new 2D object, square, and call this enemy 0.5 by 0.5, just put this over here, And we can go to here on the assets, right click create, go down to material, change this from standard to unlit color, and make it sort of red color. Set that to the enemy. Now, give the enemy a rigid body, 2D, and a box collider, 2D. And as you can see, we can push him around. Great. Alright, to help solve the lag, change the vector 2 to vector 3 and add comma 0 to the end of the rb.velocity, and that will help make this a lot less laggy and weird. Alright, you can change what the sky looks like by going to background in the camera and maybe make it a little bit like bright blue. That looks pretty good. So if you just press play, yeah, that looks quite nice. Alright, now we want the enemies to spawn in, go there, fall off the screen, and then the player has to jump over them. So first let's add the player jump. So if we just go here and say if input dot get key down key code dot space, then we can check if the space key is pressed, then rb dot velocity equals new vector 3, and we don't want to change the horizontal speed, so we can do rb dot velocity dot x, and then we can say like 100 or 10. I think 10's fine, and then 0, and that should be good. So now if we go back to Unity and press space, that's quite powerful. I like that. And we can move very slowly, so it'll be tricky. Also, we want to check if we're touching the ground. So we can go up here and say private boolean touching ground. Okay. And if we go to the ground and tag it as and add a tag and name it ground, save ground and save that, and we go back to ground, we can tag it as ground. Perfect. Now we can go back here and if touching ground, so then we can set touching ground equals false, and then void on collision enter 2D, and then if collision dot tag game object dot tag is equal to ground, then touching ground equals true, because the tag of the ground equals ground, and this just checks if it collides with something. So touching ground and touching ground equals true. Perfect. Now we need to check in here and touching ground is equal to true. Alright, so now if we go here, it will not let us jump unless we are touching the ground. Perfect. Alright. Save that. And okay, we have the enemy. So now we want to add the enemy script. So if we just say enemy, new script, create and add. We also want a create empty game manager. This will spawn in the enemies. Alright, so let's open the enemy script. Okay, so get rid of the start. And what we want to do is do public speed, so we can change the speed whenever we want. And we'll just, integer speed. And then we can just set that to 5. And public game object game manager, and we can just put that in there, and then we can do void update RB. Okay, so we want to do public rigid body 2D RB. Now RB dot velocity is equal to new vector 3, and then we can do speed 0 and 0. Very simple. And we don't want to reference the game manager. Alright, so now if you do RB, there you go, you put it in here, and the enemy is moving very fast, so I'll just change that to be quite a bit slower, so let's just do 3. And in here we want it to be rb.velocity.y, so it can actually fall. We don't want it to not be falling. So now if we just change that back to 2, we don't want to make any changes during play because it'll just get rid of it. And there it's moving at a normal pace. Okay, perfect. And we want the game manager to reference the enemy. So let's go into here, do public game object enemy, and then we want to make clones of it every second. So in start. Alright, so in void start, do invoke repeating, and then create enemy, and then 1F, 1F. So it will call create enemy every second. Now change update to create enemy, get rid of this, and then instantiate, and then we do the object. So we do enemy, then we do the transform. So we'll do it game object dot transform dot position. So that'll take the position of the game manager. Then we will do true. oh yeah, sorry, we will do game object dot transform dot rotation, and that's all we need. So we can go down here, we can reference the enemy and the game manager, and make sure to put the game manager, visit the game manager, to where you want the enemy to spawn. And now every second enemy will spawn. Okay, it's not particularly difficult, but it is a game and does work. Thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next tutorial, where we will make a little bit more of a complicated game, and it will be a little bit more difficult. Thanks for watching.